We welcome you to our ESPN coverage of final practice for the NASCAR Sprint Cup cars here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It is a crisp but clear day here. Here's the best news, folks. No rain in the forecast over the next 48 hours. Jimmie Johnson, our points leader, has been raining on the parade of chasers for most of the past 3 years. And while Jimmie has had some good performances, he has never in his career been as dominant as he was 1 week ago.
This may be the smallest and slowest track on the circuit, but don't confuse that with the easiest.
Jimmie Johnson starts on the pole today. If there's a favorite in today's race, he's certainly one of them. This team is right now on top of their game.
Let's do what we do. Just do it better than everybody else.
69 points separating the top two in the chase. Jimmie Johnson and Jeff Burton come down to the green flag.
Good there, Wheelman. What do you think? Started off a little loose. I feel like I'm overusing the brakes, so I'm going to try to get off those for you.
Jimmie Johnson, Jeff Gordon are absolutely the class of the field.
Leaders feel to make what could be their final pit stop.
Going to be 4 tires.
Oh, man.
What a recovery. Good job, Kenneth.
They still beat these guys out.
Jimmie Johnson opened up a can on the competition.
He's well on his way to that third consecutive championship, which has only been done one other time by Cale Yarborough.
Going really good.
Johnson just pulled away at a curveball.
Yeah, I think he looked back. He saw Junior easing up on him.
What a dominant day for Jimmie Johnson. He's led 7 times for 339 laps.
Good job, Jimmy. Yeah, we roll, boys. Excellent performance, gentlemen. That's what you call points racing. Getting them all.
That was Jimmie Johnson's 6th win in 2008, his 4th win in the last 8 races. And he enters Atlanta Motor Speedway with the largest lead in the history of the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. 149 points over Greg Biffle. See Carl Edwards back and forth, still less than 200 points back. Jimmie is one of 7 drivers that have won races here at Atlanta. In fact, he won both races here in 2007. Carl Edwards up both in 2005. And look, Jeff Gordon is the winningest driver at this racetrack with 4 wins, but still looking for that first win in 2008. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch along with Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie. Glad to have you with us here for final practice for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. And guys, 4 races to go in the chase, the final 4. And a lot has changed at this racetrack since the drivers were here back in March.
Yeah, a lot with the cars in particular, because these guys have learned so much more about these race cars. Their setups have changed quite a bit. The aerodynamics of this car has changed. Even though they can't mess with the bodies a lot, there's a lot more things they know to do to maximize that downforce or lack of that they have. But probably the biggest change, Andy, is one that made a lot of people happy: the tires.
Yeah, that has been. The learning curve has been steep on the cars, but it's also been with Goodyear. They have really tested a lot this year, not just at Atlanta, but they did 2 tests at this racetrack to try to get a better tire, more grip, and make the drivers happier with what they've got here. Now, trying to keep up with this car has been a tough assignment, but I think they've done a good job. Rick Campbell, I talked to him this week, he said at Goodyear, he said that the guys that tested the tire here all liked it. They left here feeling a lot better about it. So hopefully we'll have a lot better race here.
Yeah.
Let's check in on some of the agendas of the chase drivers down in the garage here as we head down to Dave Burns.
Well, of course, everyone's trying to catch Jimmie Johnson right now, including the 99 of Carl Edwards. He was quickest in the first practice of today, and I talked with Carl between sessions. He said that his car, the 99, was good through the entire run. They never changed tires on that race car. As for Jeff Burton in the 31 car, a bit more of a struggle. That car was very, very loose. Jeff said more loose in the corners than I can ever remember. More loose, and the back end was just not in the track helping out at all. So they have worked hard on that, but didn't get very far in that first practice. They'll continue on this one. And what about championship leader Jimmie Johnson? Not hopping into his car quite yet. They had a calm session this morning, worked very diligently on that car, but tried to keep it out of trouble. At one point, Chad Knaus, the crew chief, saying, you've scared me enough for right now. Why don't you bring it in? We'll make a little bit of a change. So the championship leader running very well here so far today. Jamie Little.
Well, Dave, when you come to mile-and-a-half tracks, especially here in Atlanta, a sure bet is usually Roush Fenway drivers. There's 5 of them, remember, and there's different scenarios going on. Of course, 3 of them in the chase, 2 not in the chase. One to look to is David Reagan. What a phenomenal performance he's put on the last 4 weeks. 3 top 10s in the last 4 races. He's here at his home track. He was top 10 in the first practice just an hour ago. Then you have Greg Biffle. He moved up 1 spot in the point standings. Now he stands just 149 behind Jimmie Johnson. He told us last night he definitely thinks he has a shot at this championship, and he feels he can win here at Atlanta and the next 3 tracks. Now, right now in happy hour, the final little touches are chiefs, including Greg Biffle's crew chief up on top of the hauler, will get together, have a meeting in the minds, figure out what worked and what didn't as they go into tomorrow's race. Doc?
A lot of drivers hoping to be able to move in on Jimmie Johnson. Now, there was one practice earlier in the day, and Jimmie Johnson wasn't very good. He was 17th overall in that session. And scan down, you see Carl Edwards, old cousin Carl, was the quickest car of all.
He was the quickest by quite a bit, and Jimmie Johnson, you can see he was 17th. That's probably why they're down in the garage area working on the car, trying to get it better.
Back into there is Carl Edwards in the 99 car. Yesterday in the media center, Jimmie Johnson was asked by the general media, of all the drivers chasing you, who are you most worried about? He said without hesitation, this guy, the 99 car of Carl Edwards. If someone's going to run me down, I think this is the guy that we would be most concerned about.
Well, there's no doubt that he knows how to get around this racetrack. You can see him really working the steering wheel there and fighting the car. Looked like the car was pretty loose, but he did top the practice sheets of the first section, but he's about a half a second slower with his fast time in this session. Of course, it has heated up some here, and they have some rubber down the track, which, unlike other racetracks, that makes this racetrack a different racetrack in another way, Andy. It actually, the cars start to lose some grip when they get that down.
Yeah, it seems like with this surface, it's got a lot of age on it. You see how it's gray looking. It's not black and dark like you see. Man, Carl's really fighting this car right down on that bottom white line. But as these tracks age, they do lose a lot of grip. And as they run, they start moving around looking for other lanes to run in to try to find some more grip.
Here's the 88 car, Dale Earnhardt Jr., who ran very well here in March. We talked about how many drivers struggled. He didn't struggle much. He finished third and led over 60 laps.
He's going to run good. I think tomorrow he's going to run really good. This is the line. He's going to run basically all day long, and he likes it up there. And this track seems to reward drivers that like to run that high line and run it well.
Well, if you can make your car go up there, you can keep a lot more momentum at this racetrack. And it just seems that a lot of times you see him down here in 3 and 4 right now, that you'll want to keep the car down towards the middle or bottom part of the racetrack there and really be high in 1 and 2. But Dale Jr., he seems to really like this high line all the way around this racetrack and keeping the RPMs up.
What's the disadvantage of running up like he does up near the wall each and every lap?
Probably the risk of hitting the wall. You're closer to it. You're a lot closer. And we see that with this 88 car. He runs so close that sometimes he does get into it, and yeah, that's the risk.
Yeah, that is a risk. But the other thing is you're making a bigger racetrack out of it, so that's the other downside to it. But if you're keeping momentum, then that downside of it becomes really a non-factor.
How about Paul Menard? He's second quickest on the sheet so far.
Yeah, we were talking about Carl Edwards was at the top of the sheet, but he's about 0.2 of a second on his fast lap faster than Paul Menard. But Paul was on the right side of the sheet or the scoring monitor whenever in the first session, so they made some gains here in this second one.
His first race, I believe, in the series was here, and he finished in the top 10. So pretty good track for Paul.
Yeah, he was talking yesterday about how much he liked this racetrack, and it was so good to him the first time he ever came here. And now finally coming out of the garage area, the 48 car of Jimmie Johnson comes out. It'll take him a moment to get up to speed, and we'll catch up with him and see what's going to happen here, see if he can be better than he was in the earlier session today. Lots of motorsports this weekend. How about some IndyCar action tonight, 10:30 Eastern Time, the Gold Coast IndyCar 300 at Australia. NASCAR now tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. NASCAR Sprint Cup at Atlanta. Stop number 7, 1 o'clock Eastern on ABC. And we'll wrap it all up with NASCAR Now on ESPN2 tomorrow night at 10 o'clock Eastern Time. Ask race fans, they'll tell you Atlanta Motor Speedway known for great final lap finishes. How about this one? Dale Earnhardt Sr. just nipping Bobby Labonte. Even the crew didn't know. But Sr., one of his 9 wins at this mile-and-a-half racetrack. Big smile for the Intimidator, knowing he was the dominant driver at this track. And who can ever forget the emotional day, March 11, 2001, after we had lost Dale Sr., Kevin Harvick in the car, getting his very first win and saluting Dale Sr. with 3 fingers in the air. First win for the 99 car. How about Carl Edwards trying to beat Jimmie Johnson in a drag race at a turn 4, and Carl would get it done in the spring and go on and win in the fall to sweep both events in 2005. Carl atop the lead speed chart right now here. This is Jimmie Johnson out getting his car up to speed in the 48 car. See where Jimmy is. He had been, remember, 17th in that earlier session today.
Yeah, he's back in 23rd right now. So it's funny, Andy. It seems that if you're not one of the first group of cars that goes out there, you just don't ever get that speed, that fast lap.
I knew where you were going with that, and we've seen that for years. I mean, if you don't go out in that first wave, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the clean air. I don't know what it is, but you can't go out in the middle of the session. I don't care what kind of tires you have or what, and really go to the top of the sheet. So that's kind of a phenomenon I've never understood. Dave?
Hey guys, just put some perspective on Jimmy Johnson's year here at Atlanta. They pulled out a 13th place finish in the spring race. Didn't lead a single lap, and Jimmy admitted this week it was a struggle for us here in the spring. So they've been working on making better with this race car this time. And at the end of that run, he said to his team, I think we've got a direction now, but we need some other ideas to help build in some comfort. I think, Andy, that tells me, or DJ, that tells me that the driver had a little bit of a loose race car. It was fast, but maybe a little too loose to drive comfortably, and they needed to put some more things on that car just to tighten it up a tick.
Yeah, you're exactly right there, Dave. If the driver's looking for a little more comfort, it's because the back end's hung out just a little bit too much. He'd like to be able to put a little bit more steering into it, and this, as fast as this racetrack is, and that's what you have to understand, this is one of the racetracks that we go to, one of the that you feel speed more than anywhere else, and the car can get away from you here in a hurry. So you'd like to have a little bit of that comfort built in without sacrificing too much speed.
That's the key thing. If you get the car too comfortable, you really do give up speed, and speed is the name of the game. So if it's crew chief, if it's speed or comfort, I'm going to say, well, let's go with the speed, and we'll try to make it as comfortable as we can, but we're not going to take any speed out.
Jimmy Johnson just one of two drivers to be in every single chase, and of course he leads Greg Biffle by the margin there. The other one, Matt Kenseth, who is currently 10th in chase points, and Matt, although he has not won at this racetrack, has had some good runs here, finished 8th here back in March.
Yeah, he's in the top 10. He's 7th on the board right now.
And I think we're going to see all of these Roush Fenway cars up there, guys that they're going to have to contend with if they're going to win this race tomorrow. They really seem to have something that works really well here, and doesn't hurt to have that Doug Yates horsepower at a place like this.
Matt coming off the 8th place finish at Martinsville. The disappointment, when you talk to him about what's happened in the chase, 41st at Charlotte, 26th at Talladega. He began the chase with that 40th place finish at New Hampshire. They thought they would be serious contenders, and so did we in this year's championship.
Yeah, but you look at those 3 bad races. He got caught up in accidents that none of them were his making. So yeah, that's disappointing, and that doesn't, help the situation that they're in now. But every single one of those wrecks that they got involved in, they were just kind of an innocent bystander.
It's amazing to me. We're watching these cars go around the racetrack. I mean, they are really fighting the steering wheel. This track really is, it's one, like I say, it's got a lot of bumps, and the surface is worn out. And to go fast, you really have to solve the steering wheel with this new car.
Yeah, I thought that this was one of the hardest places, if not the hardest place, to drive this new car whenever we brought this car out. It just, because of the racing surface, there are bumps there. This was always, as fast as this racetrack was, it was hard to really feel like you had a good handle on it, and this car with the less downforce makes that even more of a problem. And so these guys really work the steering wheel a lot.
From veterans to rookies, and we have a tie atop the Rebestos Rookie of the Year point standings. Regan Smith has now been tied by Sam Hornish. Sam's been the top finishing rookie the last 2 races in a row. And now Patrick Carpentier, no longer active in the series, back 10 points there in 3rd. Here is the 77 car of Sam Hornish that finished 25th here in the spring.
He's 15th overall, so he's running pretty good. He's running up on that high line like we saw Junior earlier.
There's no doubt that as you come here, and if you don't have a lot of experience here, that higher line is a more comfortable line to run around here. You get down the bottom, and you have those more bumps on the bottom of the racetrack, and you really just feel like to get around the corner, you have to have the car really hung out down on the bottom, using up a lot of racetrack. You have to almost get it so tight that you know that's not going to be good.
There's the one car, Martin Truex, going by Hornish.
This is a good example of the different lines. We see the one car looks to be just a little bit faster than the 77 here. So, Martin, but you can see that Martin Truex is kind of hung out. The back end was coming off of turn 4, but he is making some speed.
Yeah. We're going to see guys with different lines and different agendas as we get tomorrow. Here's Jeff Burton. He's right on the bottom. I watched Jeff some in the first session, and I think we heard Dave Burns say as we came on today that he was really loose. And I watched him a few times because I thought we were getting ready to see an accident. His car was so loose. And looks like, let's see if he's still fighting a little bit of that. But Jeff likes to run the bottom and make that work. Mark Martin's another one that likes to come here and try to make that bottom side work. But you can see Jeff really working the bottom. Dave?
And they made the swing, DJ. They got that car tight at the beginning of this session. That may have been conditions, but that was also some changes they made on the race car. And the first practice session today was very interesting. All the cars went out, and immediately all three Childress cars came into the garage. All three were loose, the 31 complaining the most about that condition, but they all had to work on that early. So working with each other, they apparently had the same conditions to start out with. But as I say, the 31's made that swing. He comes back into the garage now to continue adjusting on it.
Yeah, that's nice when you have teammates that you can work with like that, and of course all three of them in the chase. And not that all of these drivers drive the cars the same, but it also gives you the opportunity for each one to go in kind of a different direction, and you can try different things to see if it actually helped.
The car that won here in the spring was Kyle Busch, and in what was at the time the very first win for Toyota in NASCAR Sprint Cup competition, and first 1-2 finished with Kyle finishing first and his teammate Tony Stewart finishing second. Jamie.
What a big race win that was for Kyle Busch. Of course, the first one in the Cup Series for Toyota, but he was pretty quick in this morning's session. He was third on the board, and then he spent a lot of time already in this session in the garage. And his crew chief, Steve Addington, told me they were working on the valence. They were trying some things. He said he just went back out on the track and radioed in that this thing is not turning at all. A very frustrated Kyle Busch we've seen in this chase, and he has reason to be. He said he doesn't feel like they've been in contention and able to win since his last win at Watkins Glen. He said he's just trying to stay out of the way. But guys, this is Atlanta. This is a great track for Kyle Busch, and he's just hoping to get back to his winning ways where they began the season in March.
You talk about him beginning the season. He dominated the regular season. 8 wins in 26 starts, and the very first win came here back in March. What a performance, leading 173 laps to get his first of 8 wins in 2008. Coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series final practice continuing at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Here's a former 2-time winner here, Mark Martin in the 8 car.
Yeah, Mark's up in 4th spot on the sheet. See him right on the bottom of the racetrack, and that's where Mark's going to want to try to make his car run. He's not one that likes to run that higher line, but he gets the job done down on the bottom. See the car kick out just a little bit there as he exits turn 2. But he could be a factor. I talked with Mark the other day, and he is so excited about next year. He's like a kid in a candy store. I tell you, he just can't wait for that to get here.
I don't know that I've ever seen Mark Martin any more excited about racing, period, than he has been the last really couple of years. And now going into this next season with Hendrick, he's just like a kid again, like you said.
What we're referring to is that next year Mark Martin will come out of semi-retirement at the age of 50 to run full-time for Rick Hendrick for the championship, his last shot at the NASCAR Sprint Cup title.
It's a chance of a lifetime for us to have Mark Martin in the car, so I'm really excited about it.
I can't overstate how good he is, you know, in and out of the race car with the race team.
The most amazing part of Mark Martin is that his age makes no difference.
To be 49 years old and to be as competitive as he is, he just has so much wisdom and knowledge and understanding of how to make it work.
I wouldn't ask Mark to come back if I didn't think we could win the championship.
Rick Hendrick was so persistent. I told him no at first. I started thinking about what the opportunity that I would have passed up. This is an opportunity of a lifetime.
You know, if you'd ever told me at any point in time you're going to have, you know, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, Dale Jr. all at one team, I'd say there's no way.
Not only is he going to make the 5 car good, but he's going to make the whole organization better.
My goal is for everyone to say that I brought something to the table.
For him not to have won a championship in his career, I think just isn't right. The record book should not end that way.
I want to win a race so bad. After we get one, then we'll work on 2.
What was that lineup the Yankees had years ago, Murderers Row, when these guys were just incredibly talented? Look at that lineup for Hendrick for next year. And Mark Martin, you think he's excited? We're excited because I can't wait. When you've been around Mark as much as we have and know how much he wanted to be a champion 4 times, he has come oh so close, and now one final shot. Here's a two-time Nationwide Series champion, Kevin Harvick, in the 29 car. We showed you that emotional win here back in 2001. That is his only victory at Atlanta. And that 15 car, Andy, one of your former drivers, Paul Menard, getting it done here in this session.
Yeah, he's smoking around the outside right here. And this is another good illustration of the two lines and how different they are, but how well each one of them works. Kevin's still working the bottom on Paul, but looks like Paul's getting the better of him.
Yeah, he really is. Harvick was second quickest in the first session and is third in this session. So obviously that's a good race car, but Paul Menard making that high line work as he goes back towards the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to run more in the middle right here on the exit of turns 1 and 2.
Well, Paul has run so well here at the end of the year. He made a decision to leave DEI and go to Yates Racing for 2009, but then suddenly this team has just run so well over the last few weeks.
It's just amazing, really, the performance that DEI has had. All three of their cars, or 3 of their cars, are in the top 10 right now, with Paul being second and Mark Martin is 4th. Regan Smith is in the top 10. He's 10.
See Jimmy Johnson going back in the garage here. DJ, you've been in his shoes where you have been the odds-on favorite to win the title, but now they're struggling a little bit here.
Yeah, they are, and you know, you think because they've had everything going their way that it would just continue that way. But you get to certain racetracks that have given you trouble, you can't just. We see Jimmy working here, and now let's see. He's trying to explain to Chad Knaus. This isn't a puppet show, right? He is actually explaining what his car is doing, Andy. And he's actually using the steering wheel right here to show that.
Yeah, a lot of drivers will use that steering wheel as the corner arc, and he's showing like turn entry. The way he moves that wrist out there shows me that the car's loose, and you can see Chad Knaus taking all this in and now making adjustments on this car. This is going to test the character of a championship team. And it's not going to be good every week. So when it's not good, how you react to it is really going to define you, and this is what these guys are doing right now. They're working hard on this. They've got a lot of time. They've got between now and tomorrow to get it right.
You could also get carpal tunnel by doing that with your wrist so much there. But Jimmy Johnson sitting in the car, trying to get him dialed in. Here's the guy they're chasing in terms of speed on the racetrack, just where he was in the earlier session, the 99 car, Carl Edwards.
Yeah, we're seeing about 2-second drop off with all of these cars from their fast time to what they run after they put some time on it. And
look at him solve the steering wheel, though. You can see just how slick this. Look at that. I mean, that is. Yeah, with the old car, if you ever saw that, you were wrecked. And this car, it seems like to go fast, you've got to be able to steer the car and really saw this wheel to make it go around the corner. You have to manhandle this car around the corner.
That's why these guys that grew up racing on dirt, we see Carl working here really hard, that they kind of feel at home because they drove those dirt cars like that, had to use the steering wheel a lot, and so they're making it work on the pavement at high speed.
Carl driving the same car. He finished third with a Dover back a few weeks ago, finished 7th at Michigan in June. This car is yet to win this year, although Carl does have 6 victories.
Yeah, he's coming in to work on that. That might have been a little more action than what he was actually wanting at that point in time.
Carl is our in-race reporter, and if you'd like to possibly ask Carl a question, go on to ESPN.com, keyword Ask the Driver, and maybe have your question selected. And maybe Dale Jarrett will ask him during the pace laps, as he will ask one of his own questions and one, you know what you're going to ask him yet?
No, not yet. No, I'm waiting to see what all of these questions come in. I might take one of those. We can only use one, but I might use one of those too. But Carl's always entertaining, so it's fun when we have him as the in-race reporter.
Love to hear from Carl in the race car. Here's David Gilliland in the 38 car.
We've got a colorful paint scheme on this car this week.
The Aflac Children's Cancer Center, which is in downtown Atlanta, one of the top 5 childhood cancer centers in the nation, coming on board to try to draw awareness to how much young people, how much they've been able to do with childhood cancer and blood disorders over the last few years. Pretty big weekend for corporations involved in NASCAR racing in the state of Georgia. You see UPS headquartered in Atlanta, Home Depot here as well. Aflac has a big presence. And of course, the Aflac Cancer Center sponsoring the 38 car I mentioned a moment ago as part of Emory University in downtown Atlanta. We invite you to join us Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Stop number 7 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Will Jimmy Johnson continue his winning ways? Could one of the contenders step up? Carl Edwards says he can move in. Greg Biffle says this championship is far from over. Coverage begins at 1 o'clock Eastern time with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bessick, Brad Doherty, and Rusty Wallace. Here is Greg Biffle rolling back to the garage area. He has not won here, but he finished 4th in March. Same car, he had a top 5 finish with it. Kansas. Dave.
And at the end of the first session today, Greg said, sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I got so many cars down here to look at. Greg wanted them to go in a different direction than what they had done. He said, we need to do something different than what we've got. And during this session, the car has been better, but they need to work on the balance. The right rear spring was one that they sort of relied on. That was sort of a baseline spring for them. But the left front shock they had just changed, and they want to put that back where it was. So Biffle kind of going back and forth on this thing. Was not happy at the end of the first session, but is quicker on the board this session. So it appears they're making some progress.
Getting better and better before the race on Sunday, and Biffle very pumped up, as we said, about what could happen in that car tomorrow. Here's the 11 car on the bottom of the racetrack. Bit of a struggle there for Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, car looked really loose there through that corner, and that's what you fight. If you get the car turned through the center of the corner there, you're going to fight loose on exit, especially down on the bottom of the racetrack.
Jamie?
Well, Doc, Denny Hamlin just getting back out on the racetrack, and last time he came into the garage, he actually said he was too tight between 3 and 4. They had tightened him up too much. That was an adjustment they had made. So when he came in, they changed that right rear spring. They went down on the track bar. He was 24th on the board, so they're back out. Maybe they loosened him up just a little too much, but he's turning those laps, seeing if it'll help him out a little bit. Coming off his best finish in the chase thus far, 5th at Martinsville. Pretty good for Denny Hamlin.
He is only top 5 in the chase thus far, and he does not have a top 5 here at this racetrack. He has had only one top 10 finish in 6 starts here. That was 8 back in the fall of 2006. Back in the spring, tires were a big issue here, and obviously a lot of drivers complaining, and Goodyear's done a lot of work on R&D'ing these tires and bringing a better right side tire. But everyone comes in and they take a look at them. What are they looking for? To tell us, let's go down to our ESPN Tech Center, Tim Brewer.
Thanks, Jerry. One of the things we're going to be monitoring here is actual tire temperature. But what we're really concerned with is the wear pattern. When we get a brand new tire from Goodyear, the tire specialist, he comes over and actually measures the wear pin indicators. But after we run the tire 20, 25 laps, we'll come back and remeasure those holes. And what the tire specialist is going to do, he's going to go back and inform the crew chief is the wear pattern across the tire. We're trying to utilize every aspect and every inch of the surface of the tire, so he might want to go back and tell him he needs to make a camber adjustment to utilize the whole tire.
That's great, Tim. And actually, Andy, as a crew chief, as you and Tim know over the years, that tire becomes almost a map to what's happening for the race car.
Oh, you listen to these tires. They'll tell you what the car's doing if you'll listen to them. And like Tim said, you know, they're monitoring the wear. They monitor the pressure. When these guys make a run, they'll come in. First thing they do is stick a pressure gauge on all 4 tires. That's a good indication of the heat in the tire, because the only thing that makes the tire build up in pressure is heat. So if it builds up more pressure on one corner or the other, then you know you've got more heat there. So the driver or the crew chief takes this all into consideration, as well as what the driver is telling him to make adjustments on the car.
Here's 07 of Clint Boyer, one of the double-duty drivers here this weekend. Had a very good run here in the spring. Boyer finished 6th and led over 50 laps.
See, Clint turned a little bit right getting into the corner.
Well, I never like seeing that, but you just see a lot of different things with this new car now. These guys having to do a lot of adjustment on that steering wheel.
Yeah, he's really adjusting quite a bit in the center. Now watch as he gets to the center of the corner, really having to trying to find some grip to get that car to turn, but just not comfortable with just holding the wheel.
That car was actually spinning the tires on a straightaway. He's coming up off the corner. I see the camera also vibrating quite a bit. I'd be a little concerned about that if I was watching this car. If it was mine, I'd probably want to get that smoothed up a little bit. Yeah, we're not really just talking about the camera. You see that vibration in the camera, that's coming from the vibration from the car. Probably the drive shaft may be just a little bit out of balance.
Now, how is he spinning tires coming up off the corner?
No grip.
Yeah.
He just overpowering the racetrack.
We saw Casey Kane spin out on the straightaway off of turn 4 here in the spring, so it can happen. Dave?
They had changed the right front spring on that race car, Clint complaining that it was loose in, so that was the run following that change. I did talk to him between sessions, and he said, you know what, our car was loose at the beginning of the session, like I reported at the beginning of our show, but the problem was when we went to try to make it a little bit tighter, we just lost the front end entirely. You know, no steering at all once we started working on that, so he said it was really a tightrope they were walking here.
Hey, Dave, I'd be interested to know if he thought that was better right there, because if that was better, I'd like to have seen that run before with him inside the race car, because that looked pretty loose to us up here.
Here's a 24 car. Let's listen into his radio.
Maybe fly, but I'm going to wreck. We're just way too loose. Not way too loose. I shouldn't say way too loose. We're just too loose. Near 3 and 4, as soon as I get out of the gas, all the way. It's pretty much all the way through. Got to consistent. But yeah, no, it's way more consistent. It's rolling the middle now. That's where it's consistent. It's kind of the same for everywhere else.
We watched Jeff here. He's talking about more consistent. His lap times aren't falling off as much as a lot of them. He doesn't seem to have the speed to get up and go speed. He's a little over a second off as far as that goes to Carl Edwards, but the car looks to be pretty good on a longer run.
I also see this car vibrating through the camera lens. That's one thing about this racetrack is you carry a lot of sustained RPMs. You keep the engine wound up very high all the way around the racetrack because the corners are so broad, and they're running out these high lines. They keep these things wound up. So that's why you see the potential for engine problems at this racetrack more than a lot of them.
What a difference a year makes for Jeff Gordon. A year ago this time, he was atop the point standings. He had won 6 races and had 20 top 5s. This year, back in 7th in the points and still looking for that very first win. It could come here on Sunday. Back at Atlanta Motor Speedway, here's the 10 car of A.J. Allmendinger coming and making his second start here for Gillette Evernham Motorsports, and he had what you might call a moment just up in the turn here trying to hang on. You talk about how you can spin the tires. Watch this.
Yeah, he's just glad he was able to drive this thing back to the garage area is what he's happy. You see him get loose there on the exit of the corner, but now he's up on the straightaway, and this still happens out there. It's amazing. This is the only racetrack I know that this happens, and it doesn't really happen like that off of turn 2, but it's right there off of turn 4.
All right, that didn't seem to work. Come on back in here.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, that's a good observation there.
He's still wobbling. He's out of the gas down there in 1 and 2, still wobbling.
We saw Kyle Busch struggling a little bit ago in this session. He's been back in the garage and now back on the racetrack. Let's see what it looks like now.
Remember back in the spring race that Kyle's car, it didn't seem to be all that great at the beginning, but man, towards the end of that race, he got that car hooked up on the bottom. I won't say hooked up. He got it going a lot better than everybody else. I don't think anybody was
relatively speaking, he was hooked up compared to the field.
Man, he could just go right around the bottom.
Now, we saw the 07 out on the track a moment ago and all the vibration inside the car where they had made that spring change. And then, DJ, you asked a question if it was better or worse. Dave, what's the result?
And Doc, and don't forget the hand movements that we're getting that car into and through that corner. Clint's saying that, you know, it was kind of one of those, we did bad and we also did worse. We hurt the front end with that change, and the back end of the car is still very, very loose. That is the worst part of it for him right there. The back end of the car is where he wants the team to focus now. So your answer, still loose and no better.
Okay, well, that's good that we know a little bit what we're talking about up here and just watching these guys. So I think that's going to be a common theme throughout the race tomorrow, as these guys are going to fight rear grip. And as they try to fix that, then they're going to hurt the center of the corner. So that's what they have to be extremely careful. It's just going to be guys that they're just going to have to drive it here, and it's tough to do.
It's going to be better this run because you see new tires. They're bolting on the car. They're going to do that. They're going to go and reevaluate these changes, put a set of tires on, and see where they are now.
Final practice at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Who are the guys atop the speed charts? Well, how about Kevin Harvick, who won here in 2001, third right now in the speed. Paul Menard, great run for the DEI engines. And, of course, Cousin Carl right now, the top man in speed. Final minutes of happy hour. Greg Biffle in the 16 car. There's David Reagan, his teammate down below him, moving in on the 6-time Atlanta winner, Bobby Labonte.
And Bobby's had a lot of success at this racetrack, and it's amazing to me that Greg Biffle hasn't won yet here. This is exactly the type of racetrack that he really likes racing on. And, of course, it'd be a big day for David Reagan if he were able to pull off a victory here at this racetrack not far from where he lives.
And Carl Edwards got his first win here for Roush, driving when he was driving for Roush in the 99 car, so it could happen for David Reagan. And you see Bobby Labonte, he has been so good at this racetrack, but he is way down on the practice sheet right now. He's 40th quick. Kind of uncharacteristic of Bobby Labonte.
Bobby won the very first race here when they changed the configuration to its current double dogleg shape back in the fall of 1997.
See Ryan Newman right behind him. This has been a racetrack that Ryan has really enjoyed. He's currently 17th on the speed chart, but when you think of going fast, you always think of Ryan Newman here.
Yeah, here's one reason. Yesterday we had about an 8-minute practice where the cars got out on the racetrack. Ryan Newman ran the fastest lap of the weekend, a 29.50. Nobody today's even come close to that.
Yeah, he's only a 7-time pole winner here at this racetrack, currently tied with Buddy Baker, and he thought if we could have got qualifying in, he might have been able to break that record and become the all-time winningest pole winner at Atlanta. Local boy, Peachtree City, Georgia, the 41 car, Reed Sorensen, his best career finish right here at Atlanta.
This is where I really saw Reed run the first time in what's now the Nationwide Series and thought, wow, you know, this young man's really going to be good. He was driving, he was running up front that entire day with the guys, with all the Cup guys. And not that he's hasn't been good, but he's certainly had a struggle this year. But would really like to have a good run here this weekend.
And there are some of the cars that you see Reed Sorensen and David Reagan and those guys that grew up not far from this racetrack started in. Some of the Legends cars.
This is where they cut their teeth and developed a lot of their driving talent right here at Atlanta. They're going to have a race on the quarter-mile track after the truck race today. So that's what they're doing.
That's where our Brad Doherty is starting too. You can recognize his car because he's got a head sticking through the roof. Reed, of course, in the 41, he'll be moving to Gillette Evernham in 2009.
You see Jamie McMurray in the 26 car. Man, he's had some really good runs lately. Don't have the finishes to show it, but this race team has really come on and been a lot stronger, and their performance has really been good recently.
Had a great run at Martinsville and had a rear end issue that knocked him out of the race, but he had a great car there.
They were running 5th at Talladega, got caught up in the big one. And how about Dover? They were the best car on the track at Dover and were taken out by someone else's accident.
Yeah. Riding along here with Michael Waltrip, who's up on the higher side. You see him really gain on Jamie down the straightaway. Got a nice run off the corner. Michael loves running that high line around this racetrack. It'd be nice to see him have a good run in the Napa Toyota.
22 car, Dave Blaney and Bill Davis own car as they come down, and will slow down now as the session is ended. They're waving their red and black flag. Dave Blaney, 2 top 10 finishes here at Atlanta. And as they start to slow down, let's check in where Davis caught up with Kevin Harvick.
And he had the 3rd fastest 1-lap time this session. His crew chief Todd Berrier told me between sessions they thought they were going the right direction. So, driver, what do you think?
Well, Shell Pennzoil Chevrolet was fairly good for what you can expect here. They're a lot of fun to drive, actually. They're slipping and sliding all over the place. So the tires slow down progressively as you go through the run, and you just try to, make your car as balanced as possible at the beginning and into the run. So definitely sliding around, but that's typical here.
Did you take a long enough run to see if your car would stay with you from beginning to end?
Yeah, that last run was 20 laps, so I feel pretty good about it. We still got to make some small adjustments, but I think we're pretty close.
All right, good in the Cup car, an interested owner in the Truck Series race today as well, guys.
These guys coming down, Andy, this is always a scramble here at the end of the session.
Yeah, you see what they're doing there. A lot of cars have gotten plug checks. They've shut the engine off and coasted in. Then they check the tire temperatures. There's Clint getting his afternoon exercise in right here.
Yeah, he's got to make a trip to Memphis.
He's jogging over there to get into a aircraft to get him over there so he can run the Nationwide Series race.
This was the 10th time in 2008 that we have had qualifying rained out. So they will line up by point standings, which means that Jimmy Johnson and Greg Biffle will be in row 1. You see Burton and Edwards in row 2. There's Harvick back outside of row 3. Very good, as you said, in this final session.
Kyle Busch, our winner here in the spring, wasn't very happy with this car in this session, but I look for him to be a factor as we race tomorrow.
See Casey Kane starting 15th. I think that car there will be strong tomorrow.
Remember, he finished second at Charlotte last time we were on a 1.5-mile racetrack.
Elliott Sadler had a good practice session there. David Rudman up in the top 10 in the 6th spot.
Juan Pablo Montoya, his first career top 5 came at this racetrack. Likes coming to Atlanta. And awesome Bill Elliott in the pre-race festivities on Sunday. They will salute Bill, the 20th anniversary of his 1988 championship team. They will have 27 members of that melting team on the stage as Awesome Bill tries to get his 6th win here at Atlanta. And here is the guy everyone's thinking about, Jimmie Johnson. Will he hang on? Will he extend his points lead, or will he have troubles? Remember, we saw drivers, some of the key contenders have had troubles over the years. Carl Edwards finished 42nd back in March.
Yeah, this is a racetrack that can be hard on equipment. Andy, you brought it up earlier. The engine takes a beating here because you are in the gas for so long.
Lots of motorsports coming your way. IndyCar Series, Gold Coast IndyCar 300 at Australia, 10:30 Eastern Time tonight over on ESPN Classic. NASCAR now, 10 a.m. tomorrow on ESPN2. Then live flag-to-flag coverage on ABC Atlanta, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Stop number 7 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup. NASCAR now, 10 o'clock Eastern Time tomorrow on ESPN2. Well, Jimmie Johnson continued to be the last man standing, coming off that dominant performance at Martinsville, Virginia 1 week ago.
He's got a little work to do. Not where he needs to be yet. But he's got a little bit of time to work on it.
Yeah, they made some gains there late in practice, and I'm sure they feel a lot better about their car right now.
Coming up next, ESPN2 college football. How about the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame versus Washington out at Husky Stadium in Seattle? For Dale, Jarrett, Andy Petrie, and our entire ESPN crew, join us tomorrow, 1 o'clock Eastern Time at Atlanta.